Hey guys, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch. How are you all doing today? Now today's review is of Dead Cells on the Nintendo Switch. Now I bet you thought Juan was going to review this one, didn't you, eh? Anyways, if you're new here, then click that subscribe button to keep up to date with all our reviews, gameplays and features, everything Nintendo Switch related. Now the question of today is, did you play Dead Cells during early access on PC, or will it be the first time you play it on the Nintendo Switch? Anyways, let's get on with it. Dead Cells has been on the radar of many an indie connoisseur for quite a while. Released on PC in early access early last year, it won the admiration of the majority of those that played it. It's now ready to come out of early access and be a fully fledged game on the Nintendo Switch. Has it been worth the wait? Dead Cells is a roguelite action platformer with a distinct style and fluid combat system, and I can truly see why people have fallen in love with it. There isn't much of a story to Dead Cells. The game begins as a corpse plops down into the decrepit dungeon. Without much explanation or narrative, the corpse is reanimated and is in your hands. This being, or former being, is in a perpetual state of non-death. When he dies, he is reanimated to try and escape again. You will meet a small handful of weird, fantastical characters, but they do little to advance any sort of story, which is mostly left up to the player's imagination, and in some secret areas of the environments, which may provide some historical lore here and there. It would have been nice if there was a little more attempt at storytelling for me personally, but it's not a huge deal. Dead Cells is a roguelite action platformer as your zombie-like warrior hacks and slashes his way through demons in a procedurally generated landscape. In your arsenal you have two weapons, a starting sword and then usually a choice between a bow or a shield for your secondary, at least initially. Beginning in the dungeon prison, you fight the monsters that plague it and move on to the next area, rinse and repeat. That's if you get to the next area, mind. Eventually, you'll probably stumble across some new weapons that you'll want to pick up and throw your old ones away. There's a lot of variety, but many of them need to be unlocked by finding blueprints for them to appear. I love how different every weapon feels. Whether it's the whip, the shield, throwing knives or the hammer, everything has its tactical use. Their stats won't always be the same either. You can find two of the same type of swords, for example, while one may have slightly different perks than the other. I like the fact that weapons aren't exactly common either. You'll find some in treasure chests, maybe you'll find a dealer in one of the levels from whom you can purchase, or from a secret hidden area stash. As a randomized roguelite, it's like being dealt cards. Sometimes you'll get a great hand, others you just have to work with what you've got. It's fantastic and keeps you on your toes every playthrough. The combat is glorious, it's free-flowing, snappy, and makes you feel like a total badass. There's not a ton of things you can do aside from the plethora of weapons. You can double jump, ground pound, and do the classic dodge roll, and it feels fantastic. Once you've settled down with the controls, the weapons, and the accessories like grenades or turrets, and know some of their attributes, you can feel like you're absolutely decimating the enemies thanks to how responsive the controls are. Freezing the enemy, dodge rolling behind them to slash away at their backs, jumping through to the platform below and ground pounding another enemy to oblivion while dodge rolling again, hacking at a third enemy before they get their attack off. Oh, it is so good. If you die, you die. It's back to the beginning of the game. No save points or anything. It's not a full reset though. This is a roguelite, not a roguelike. If you make it to the safety area between each level, you can cash in your blueprints and make some items permanent, as well as your cells, which are used to unlock permanent upgrades or allowing more weapons or items into the system. This is a great way to have a slow yet engrossing progression system. You always feel like you're making progress. Each time something new comes along, you feel like you've achieved something and made a huge step further within the game. So guys, in the top right hand corner of this video, I want to know what you Switch watchers prefer when it comes to the rogue genre. Do you prefer roguelikes, where death means total reset, back to the beginning and it's all based on your skill and luck? Or are you more into roguelites, where you do carry some sort of progression through despite being sent back to the beginning? I'd love to know. Dead Cells is a tough game, despite being able to feel totally unstoppable at times, but it's the kind of tough game that always feels doable. While I obviously perished a lot, I never felt like I was hitting a brick wall when it came to my morale with the game. Despite death, I was still in an enthusiastic mood to think that I would do better next time. Still, it's a game that requires skill, reflexes, and learning enemy tactics. Grinding the permanent unlocks will certainly help too. I will admit that even at the time of this review, I haven't completed it, but that's not going to stop me once this is over. Even well after I finish this review and moved on to the next game, Dead Cells is still going to be played until I take this bad boy down. It's a challenge and one that I'm not backing down from. I have to say it's such an addictive game. It's been a while since I played a game of similar nature to Dead Cells that has the same just one more run scenario. Obviously games like Mario Kart and Splatoon have that, but those are quick online competitive games. Dead Cells' nature and genre makes that a far more difficult prospect, but it succeeds magnificently. Now staying up till 1 or 2 AM may sound like baby talk for some of you young folk, but as a slightly older gentleman with a young family, it's pretty unheard of for me these days. Well, Dead Cells succeeded and dug its claws into me. I fell asleep thinking of Dead Cells, I woke up thinking of Dead Cells. I had to force myself to put it down in the early hours of the morning for 3 nights in a row. I knew I would get further in the next run. Complaints are minor at best, and any complaint that I did have was often proven wrong. My first complaint was in the seemingly strict order of the levels. I was going to bemoan the fact that there's not much choice in which stage you're allowed to take on, only for later experience to show that actually there are loads of opportunities to choose a fork in the road thanks to gaining new abilities to find new exits. It's not a huge choice, but it's an effective one that allows you to consider which route you want to take depending on your loadout. The alternative choice for the second level can be much more challenging than the standard one, at least until you find out which weapons are more effective there. My second complaint was going to be about the lack of guidance in certain aspects of the game. In your first few playthroughs you'll be bumping into things that are seemingly interactive but don't do anything. You're told diddly squat about it at first, and I feel like these could have done with a little more signposting. Am I missing something that I should have, or will this open up later? I didn't know. Once I'd played longer, however, and found the solutions to these things myself, I really began to appreciate this choice by the developers. It felt far more satisfying unraveling this game by myself. So yeah, 2 minor nitpicks that were overruled just by playing the game further and seeing exactly what it had to offer. The only small point that didn't turn out to be disproven were the enemy attack patterns. I think there could have been a little more variety in enemy attacks. It's very quick and easy to become familiar with their every move. I know adding more attacks to the mix would have increased the difficulty even further, but I really feel one more attack to their repertoire could have done wonders. Dead Cells is a game that just keeps giving. Just when you think you've got a handle on it, just when you think there's no more left to see, just when you think you've reached your skill limit, Dead Cells tells you you're wrong and shows you more. I reached the final level of the game before the final boss, which I still haven't seen by the way, and I thought I'd seen pretty much everything. Nope. There was still a good few alternative paths and areas that I had no idea about until I stumbled upon them. Sure, while it seems there are guides and wiki articles out there, don't take a look at them until you've completed the game once at least, as doing so will probably take some of the magic away from it. As you can see, the game is utterly gorgeous. The dense, detailed pixel work adds so much to the atmosphere and actually helps fill the missing story elements somewhat. As you make your way through the environments and dungeons, everything seems to tell its story. Sure, you're often making it up in your head, but the visuals help inspire the narrative and the history of the game for you. It's a fairly dark, bleak looking game, but the use of colour is incredibly effective. The strong hues from the background, whether it be a toxic green or dawn bringing orange, they just add so much depth and visual flair to Dead Cells. I love it. If there was a modern 2D Castlevania game made today, this is what it should be looking like. The details in the background, the little environmental details, the layers of parallax scrolling, and the incredible cohesive art style make it one of the nicer looking modern 2D games out there. I know Bloodstained is supposed to be like a Castlevania game, but Dead Cells actually looks like it. While all the environments are packed with details and character, for me, it's the simplest and shortest one of them that really stuck with me the most. During the meeting with the mid-game boss on the Black Bridge, you'll notice just how absolutely stunning this small area is. It's some of the best retro artwork that I've ever seen. The characters are absolutely sublime too. It's not the most detailed sprite work, in fact I'm not entirely convinced it is a sprite. It could be 3D disguise as pixel work, it looks like a mix or something and I really like it. The style of your character really reminds me of those old rotoscoped games like Another World or Flashback, only a million times more smooth and responsive. Performance is almost perfect. I say almost because every now and again the screen would jutter just once or twice during the level, as though it was loading something or other. It happened infrequently, although it was more prevalent in some runs than others, and I'm not sure exactly what caused it. I think it's something that should be able to be fixed, but if not, it's actually not that bad because the game runs fine 99% of the time. Looking at my capture software, Dead Cells is aiming for 60 frames per second, which it doesn't always achieve, often being in the 50s when the action kicks off. It's not noticeable though during gameplay, and I didn't notice anything to be considered actual slowdown. That affected my experience anyway. Sure, it's not perfect, but it wasn't noticeable during gameplay. Audio is absolutely fantastic, with some dark, brooding atmospheric tracks, some pounding drums as though you're in the middle of a siege, and even some melancholy pieces with haunting cellos. It's incredible and adds so much to the experience. I would say that the sound effects do overbear it a little, so I did turn those down a notch, but that's just my personal preference. I would highly recommend playing this game with headphones so you can truly take it in. Value wise, Dead Cells comes in with a standard price of $24.99 and £22.49, but there is a pre-order discount of 20% which you may want to jump on if you plan on getting it. Is that good value for money? Yes it is. Depending on skill and luck of the dice, I could probably see you getting through this in a dozen hours or so, with plenty of room for replayability. There are daily challenges you can participate in, although that's not really for me. I'm more happy to grind out all the weapons and upgrades that this game has to offer, and trying out new combinations of weapons. I also wouldn't mind starting from scratch and seeing if I could complete the game even quicker than before. Overall, Dead Cells is a fantastic game, some great visuals, smooth controls and satisfying gameplay that I'm sure most people will enjoy. It's not for the faint-hearted though, and the difficulty may be a bit much for some, so be warned about that, but it never feels impossible, and the constant drip-fed progression is rewarding enough to keep playing and unlocking things. Dead Cells is great, and if you sample the plethora of excellent Switch indie games like Hollow Knight, Iconoclast and Salt and Sanctuary, then you'll feel very much at home with this release too. It stands shoulder to shoulder with indie game giants thanks to its visuals and fantastic, addictive gameplay. In our gameplay video poll, a whopping 57% of you said that this will be a day one purchase, and 26% said you'll pick it up at some point. That's a huge percentage of you giving this a go. And you know what guys, I couldn't agree more. You know me, I rarely give out huge scores, but Dead Cells is, yes, a 10 out of 10. I can't believe I've done that. For me, it's an essential purchase, whether it comes to the eShop, the standard physical edition, or the signature edition. I think any fans of action platformers owe themselves to play this excellent game. Okay guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review. This game pulled me in like no other game of its type. Let me know what you think with a comment below, and taking part in our poll above. Do you prefer roguelikes or roguelites? Personally, I love roguelites. I enjoy having that feeling of progression every time and improving in the game. If you're a regular Switch watcher, then hit that like button too, as always, and if you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe for more reviews like this, some gameplay videos, as well as some features once in a while. Finally, head over to the website switchwatch.co.uk, that's worth a daily look, and I've been Jordan from SwitchWatch, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.